Making this video has completely changed my perspective on what vehicle I want to get next for Turo. First, I spent hours digging through Turo's calculator to find the top earning vehicles that are on the Turo platform, and then I spent another few hours digging through different websites to find the depreciation, cost of ownership, and all that data together is here to bring you the top 13 highest earning vehicles on Turo, plus one honorable mention. I'm going to cover the highest and lowest return on investment for vehicles, the highest and lowest net earnings number, and I'm even going to try to pepper in some silly, goofy fun. At the very end of the video, I'm going to show you how I used a tool called Turex to find the top 5 highest earning vehicles in my specific area, and you can do the exact same thing for your area. While I was sifting through the data, I started noticing that the vast majority of vehicles earn somewhere in the ballpark of like $7,000 to $8,000 annually, but there was definitely a few vehicles that really stood out, and that's what we're going to go through today. Just so that we're comparing apples to apples the best we can, I'm only going to be looking at vehicles that are model year 2020. That way they're about 3 years old and they've already been through the biggest drops in depreciation that they experience when a vehicle is brand new. We are also going to be assuming about 45,000 miles for each vehicle, and for all the used car prices, I found everything on cars.com, and for almost all of the expense related data, I was able to find that on Edmunds. One thing that I found is that the average earnings is not enough of an indicator to tell if a car is good for Turo or not, because that's not taking into account any of the expenses. So one of the numbers we're going to be looking at today is the net earnings, which is the annual vehicle earnings minus all the expenses. What is your leftover net profit? The reason that it's really important to look at the numbers this way is because some vehicles on this list are struggling to break even, and some vehicles on this list are money printing machines. Coming in at number 13 on this list is the American Classic, the GMC Yukon in the Denali trim specifically, and this one I found was right about $54,000. These expenses that I'm going to go through for all the vehicles are going to be the average annual amounts. So this one had an average annual repair bill of $625, about $1,300 for maintenance, $925 for insurance, and about $6,000 in depreciation every year. Turo had the average annual earnings right around $12,900, which is a return on investment of 24%. But once you take into consideration all of the expenses, your return on investment is closer to 6%. With a net earnings number of around $3,500. The cons for this vehicle is that the depreciation is pretty high, but you can drop from the Denali to a lower trim and get the depreciation to around $4,500 a year and drop a little bit off the purchase price. Probably going to lower that purchase price by about 10 grand. The pros of the Yukon Denali is that it has a pretty low cost of maintenance and repairs, and I know that the people that are running them on Turo swear by them, and they have very high utilization rates. This would be a good vehicle to get if you just want something that's pretty reliable and that you can run until the wheels fall off, but I'm not particularly impressed by the numbers. So the Yukon Denali gets my award for the biggest disappointment on this list. Up next on this list, I have the Jaguar F-Type, and I found this one for right about $45,000, and the repairs right around $1,900 a year, maintenance about $1,800 a year, insurance just about $1,200 per year, and the depreciation is going to be right around $4,300 per year. Turo had the average earnings for this vehicle just under $13,000, which brings the return on investment annually to right around 29%. Once you take into consideration the depreciation, maintenance, and repairs, that chops that adjusted return on investment to around 8%, which is kind of okay and gives you a net annual earnings of right around $3,600 per year. Now the pros for the Jaguar F-Type is that I would say it has a relatively lower purchase price compared to similar vehicles at the same caliber, and I think that it has a perceived value higher than the actual purchase price, which is going to help out a lot with the daily rate. I think that if you live in a bigger city and you want to differentiate a little bit while still getting into that luxury coupe space, I think this is a pretty good option. It would be really great for somebody who's more mechanically inclined. You could cut down on those maintenance costs and get your net earnings up into the $5,000 to $6,000 range. In the number 11 spot, we have the Porsche Cayenne. I found this one for right about $48,000, and the Annual repairs on this one, pretty expensive, right around $2,300. The maintenance is right about $2,000. Insurance, about $1,000, and the annual depreciation only about $3,100, which isn't that bad compared to other vehicles on the list. Turo had the average earnings right about $16,346, which gives a return on investment annually of 34%. If you take into consideration all the expenses, that return on investment is 16%, which is pretty good. Now this one was right about $48,000, but the higher trim level versions I was looking at for this car could easily get up into the $65,000, $70,000 range. Just like the Jaguar F-Type, the big killers on this one are going to be the repairs and maintenance. So if you're savvy with German vehicles, this would definitely be a good one for you. You could really make a lot annually on this vehicle. Coming in at number 10 is the Tesla Model X. With a purchase price of right around $62,000, repairs being around $1,600, maintenance being around $1,700, insurance $1,200, and depreciation right around $7,900, which is one of the higher depreciating vehicles on this list. Turo pins the average earnings for this vehicle right about $16,839, which brings it to an annual ROI of 27%. Take into consideration the expenses and you're looking at closer to 7% with a net earnings of around $4,400. Really, I think this would only be a really good option if you just really want a Tesla. If you're like a Tesla enthusiast, this could be a way to get one and not really have to pay for it. Other than that, the high Tesla demand seems to have resulted in the market oversaturating a little bit, at least in my area. It might be true for your area as well, but my personal opinion, I'm not going to go the Tesla route. Coming in at the number 9 top earner spot is the Maserati Levante, which I'm going to be honest, before this list, I did not even know what this is, but it's a Maserati crossover SUV thing. I found this one on cars.com for $48,900. I couldn't find the cost of ownership on Edmunds, so I had to go to a few different websites to try and figure out how much this thing actually costs to own. And the estimate that I found between repairs, maintenance, and insurance was annually about $9,200. Couple that with the depreciation of about $8,300 per year, and that puts the expenses for this thing very, very high. With an average earnings of only $17,500, that brings the return on investment to 36%. But if you take into consideration the expenses, your net return on investment is actually zero, with a net earnings per year of negative $79. This vehicle right here is a perfect example of why you should not just look at the earnings numbers that show up on Turo. You really need to do some research and take a look at the expenses and see what the average cost of ownerships are for the individual vehicles, because that net number, that is what's really going to matter at the end of the day. My conclusion is that this one is just not a great choice. I would stay away from this one. The Ferrari engine makes the maintenance and repair bill very high, and the interior is all Chrysler stuff, so kind of a big piece of junk. The Maserati Levante gets my award for the worst vehicle on this list to purchase, and I make bad decisions and I would still never touch this one. Number 8 is the Porsche Boxster, which, if you're not familiar, the Boxster is the same thing as a Porsche Cayman, except the Boxsters are all convertible and the Caymans are all hardtop. Other than that, it's pretty much the same car. As far as the earnings are concerned, Turo's calculator has the Boxsters coming in at around $3,000 more per year than the Cayman, even though they're pretty much the same car. It's just that fact that it has that convertible, so it's a little bit more desirable. This Boxster I found was right about $58,995. Repairs were right around $1,900, maintenance at $2,700, insurance at right about $1,000 a year, and the depreciation at $3,100, which is pretty low compared to all the other vehicles on this list. Turo had the average earnings right at $17,738, which gives a return on investment of 30%. And if you take into consideration all of the expenses, you get a return on investment of 15%. Even with a pretty high maintenance and repair bill, the Boxster manages to net almost $9,000 annually, which is very, very good. Overall, it would make a great car for Turo. I just hate it because it's a soft top convertible. So this one wins the award for the vehicle that I really don't want to like, but actually like because the numbers are good. Number 8 on this list is the Audi S5 Cabriolet, which just means that it is the convertible version. And this one that I found on cars.com came in right about $54,990, has an average annual repair bill of around $1,800, maintenance around $2,800, insurance at $1,100, depreciation at just over $3,500, and the average earnings of $17,764. That brings your return on investment to right about 32%. If you take into consideration your expenses, that drops your return on investment to a net of 16%, with a net annual earnings of right about $8,549. My opinion is that this would make a pretty good Turo car if you wanted to go for a convertible and you didn't necessarily want to go for the Boxster, and you definitely didn't want to go for a Mustang. This Audi looks a lot better than those other two vehicles. Plus, if you're pretty mechanical, you can chop down that maintenance bill and really add up the earnings and get close to the $10,000 a year net range. All right, we're about halfway through this list, and I just needed to do one honorable mention, and that is for the Nissan Altima. Why are you guys always picking on Nissan Altimas? This Nissan Altima that I found was right around $22,998, has an average annual repair bill of right about $500, maintenance is right about $1,400, insurance comes into $760, depreciation at $1,400, and an average annual earnings of $6,400. That brings your return on investment to 28%, or after your expenses, an annual return on investment of about 10%, with net earnings of about $2,200 per year. Now, the Nissan Altima is pretty cheap to own and maintain, so it could make a great vehicle if you're just looking for something solid and reliable, and it's just going to pull in some revenue. But unfortunately, this vehicle does win my award for most likely to be impounded in a drug-related event. Next on this list is going to be the Mercedes S-Class. I was able to find this one for right about $51,000. Has an annual repair bill of around $1,800. Maintenance pretty high in the $3,500 range. Insurance right about $800, and depreciation right about $3,645 per year. The Turo calculator has this one with average earnings at $18,105, which brings the return on investment to 35%. But if you take expenses into consideration, that return on investment drops to 16%. Even with very high maintenance and depreciation, the S-Class Mercedes still manages to pull in around $8,300 per year of net earnings. Probably going to be the best option if you want to get into the luxury sedan market. Coming in at the number 6 spot for the highest earner on Turo is actually the Chevrolet Corvette. And this one I found was right about $78,795. They have the annual average repair bill right around $1,100, maintenance being right around $2,900, insurance at $1,286, depreciation right about $2,400 per year, with an average annual earnings of $18,108. That brings your return on investment to right about 23%. If you take into consideration all your expenses, that drops your return on investment to about 13%, or over $10,000 in annual earnings, which is the first vehicle on this list to crack the $10,000 earnings mark. So why would somebody buy this car? They still have a pretty high purchase price, which is going to have a pretty high barrier to entry. But if you can manage to get into a C8 Corvette, it would be a super fun car to own and a great opportunity to have maybe your dream car and have other people pay for it and actually have it turn you a profit every year. Up next, we have the Cadillac ESV, which ESV stands for Extended Sport Vehicle or something like that. It means that it's longer. Has a repair bill of about $1,200 annually, maintenance being around $1,850, insurance at $1,200, depreciation being on the high end at $5,200, and an average earnings of just over $20,000 per year. That brings your return on investment to 31%, but after you take expenses into consideration, that return on investment is going to drop to 17%, which is still very good and breaks over the $10,000 per year net profit mark. The Cadillac is kind of on the lower end when it comes to the expenses like maintenance and repairs, but your big killer is going to be the depreciation, and there's nothing you can do about the depreciation to slow it down. The other thing you should consider if you're thinking about getting an Escalade for Turo is that even though the net profit mark is right about what the Corvette was getting, and it's a little bit higher than the Porsche Boxster, cleaning this land yacht is probably going to take 2 to 3 times as long as cleaning a Corvette or a Porsche. The Escalade ESVs are just huge. They're massive. Cleaning is going to take forever. That means turnover is going to take forever. If you're going to do 150, 200 trips in a year, that's definitely something to take into consideration if this vehicle is going to take 2-3 extra hours per trip compared to something else that pulls in the same net number. So just something to think about. Now we're jumping into the top 3 earners on Turo, and this one here in the number 3 spot, this is the vehicle that wins the award for biggest upset, most surprising, absolutely changed my perspective on this vehicle in general and changed my mind on which vehicle I think I'm going to get next. And that is the Range Rover. This Range Rover was $58,950, and the estimated repair bill on this thing annually was $3,150, maintenance right around $3,900, insurance about $1,400, and the depreciation right about $4,500 per year. The Turo calculator had the average earnings right about $21,453, which brings your return on investment to 36%. After you take expenses into consideration, you are looking at closer to 14% annually, or $8,444 net. So here's why this one caught my eye so much. This specific one that we're looking at, this one is the HSE P525. And so the 525 is actually the rating for the amount of horsepower it has, 525 horsepower. The way that it can get up to that power number is by having a supercharged V8. You're speaking my language. I like what I'm seeing here. The HSE means high specification equipment or something like that. And compared to all the other vehicles, this is one of the lower depreciating vehicles on the list, but the maintenance and repair bills are just astronomically high on this vehicle. For me, I can do all that stuff on my own, and I really feel that I could get the net earnings on this thing well over the $10,000 per year range. In the number 2 spot is the Lincoln Navigator. I found this one for about $57,000, has a repair bill of about $1,132, maintenance about $2,200 annually, insurance at $996, and depreciation right about $5,522, which is on the higher end. The Turo calculator has the average earnings for this vehicle right at $23,598, which brings the return on investment to 41% with an adjusted ROI of 24%, or $13,748 of net annual profit. You still have the problem with this one being a land yacht and taking a bunch of extra time to clean. Looking at the numbers, it is just a straight up money printing machine. Those numbers don't lie, and that annual net revenue is pretty crazy. But there is one major, huge red flag about this vehicle that would make it completely crossed off my list forever. Pulling along this insanely heavy vehicle is a turbocharged V6 engine, which I can only imagine is just screaming and barely hanging on for dear life. Which is why this vehicle not only gets the award for the highest percentage return on investment on this list, but also the award for the most likely vehicle to explode. And coming in at number 1 on this list for the highest earnings vehicle on Turo is the Porsche Panamera. I found this Porsche Panamera for $68,900, and this one has an annual repair bill of about $2,300, annual maintenance of close to $3,800. The insurance is right about $1,700, depreciation at $6,318, and the average earnings of $29,741. That brings the return on investment to 43% after expenses are taken into consideration. That is a net return on investment of 23% with net annual profits of $15,579. These Porsche Panameras can get pretty expensive with some of the higher level trims going for well over $100,000. But with high risk comes high reward, so Porsche was able to pull in the highest earnings amount. Using the Turex extension for Chrome, which one of my viewers put me onto, which is a crazy awesome tool that allows you to get into the back end of Turo and analyze the cars in any area and pull in all this extra data. I am using the paid version of Turex, which is $15 a month. There is a free version, but you honestly can't really see too much with it. So I just wanted to pay the $15 to see if it was worth it, and it absolutely is. So now we have the top 5 highest earning vehicles in my area. The metric we're going to be looking at is the gross 90, which Turex estimates the maximum gross revenue over the last 90 days. And the top 5 are looking like the Cadillac Escalade at $6,300, then the Chevy Suburban at $6,800, then the Lexus GS right around $6,900, Chevy Corvette coming in at $9,500, and a 2018 Range Rover topping the list coming in at right over $10,000. If you want to take a deep look into the analytics of your area, all you have to do is go to turex.com, go over to this website, or you can go to the Chrome store and type in Turex Explorer, and that will pull it up directly through the Chrome store. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite vehicle on this list was, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a great day.